Everyone loves an underdog story, but when the underdog wins with an engine the rulebook is about to kill, when they win from 19th on the grid, when they do it at the most famous endurance race on Earth against teams with 10 times the budget, that is not just an upset. That is history refusing to follow the script. June 23, 1991, Circuit de la Sarthe, France. A small Japanese team from Hiroshima crosses the finish line first at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. First Japanese manufacturer ever to win. First and only rotary-powered car ever to win. And the very last year, a rotary engine would be legal. 1 year too early and they lose their chance. 1 year too late and the door is already locked. Mazda had exactly one shot and they took it. The Obsolete Coupe that forced the rules to change. The R26B engine spinning inside these cars is a technological outlier, and everyone knows it. Mazda has been racing rotaries at Le Mans since 1970. 2 decades of trying. 2 decades of almost. In 1984, a Mazda-powered Lola T616 wins a class but finishes 10th overall. In 1989, the 767 runs strong until the engine lets go. In 1990, both 787s suffer electrical failures and transmission problems. The backup 767B finishes 20th. Respectable, but not a win. Now it is 1991. The FIA has announced that starting in 1992, the World Sports Car Championship will run 3.5-liter naturally aspirated engines only, matching Formula One specs. Rotary engines, turbocharged engines, the old 5-liter Group C bruisers, all banned. Mazda knows this. Everyone knows this. If they do not win now, they never will. Also, this script is researched and factual, using sources from the SAE International Technical Paper 920309 titled Mazda 4 Rotor Rotary Engine for the Le Mans 24-Hour Endurance Race, published in 1992, and cross-referenced with the official Mazda 30-year anniversary commemorative site and FIA historical regulation documents archived at Historic DD at FIA. Com, including Appendix J, 1992. These are not Wikipedia summaries. These are engineering specs and race data pulled from the people who built the car. Now back to the information. Stroud replaced the old 13J rotary with the all-new R26B, 4 rotors, 2.6 liters total displacement. In qualifying trim, 900 horsepower at 10,000 RPM. In race trim, restricted to 650 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, because Mazda speed engineers decided fuel efficiency and reliability mattered more than raw speed. The R26B weighs just 396 pounds, 39 inches long. Compare that to a Mercedes 5-liter twin-turbo V8 pulling 850 horsepower in qualifying and 720 in the race, but sucking fuel and generating massive heat. The Mazda sips. The Mazda survives. After the 1990 race, Mazda goes back to Hiroshima and reworks everything. The intake system gets a continuously variable telescopic runner setup. Previous versions operated in steps. The new system slides smoothly across the RPM range, controlled by the onboard ECU. Result, 608 Newton-meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. The suspension geometry is redesigned to fit 18-inch wheels. Carbon ceramic brakes, a first for Mazda. The chassis gets a 25mm longer wheelbase for stability. The whole package weighs 830 kilograms. Jaguar XJR12, 1,000 kilograms with a mandatory ballast. Mercedes C11, 1,000 kilograms with the mandatory ballast. Mazda 787, B, 830 kilograms because the FIA granted them an exemption. Rotary engines do not fit neatly into the displacement calculation for piston engines, and Mazda convinced the rulemakers that their engine should not carry the extra 100 kilograms. Politics, luck, or both. Either way, Mazda shows up at Le Mans with a car that is 17% lighter than the competition. Most teams bring their old Group C cars as backup. Peugeot qualifies 3rd and 8th fastest, but gets bumped to 1st and 2nd on the grid because of the new rules. Mercedes C11 with Jean-Louis Schlesser at the wheel sets pole position at 3 minutes, 31.3 seconds, fastest lap of the weekend. The Mazda 787B qualifies 12th with a time of 3 minutes, 43.5 seconds, 12 seconds slower per lap. Then the grid reshuffle happens. The fastest Mazda, car number 55, starts 19th. The second Mazda, car number 18, starts 23rd. The third car, the older 787 chassis number 56, starts 30th. From the outside, this looks like another year of Mazda playing the role of plucky outsider. No one expects them to win. No one bets a single yen on them. The French television commentator will later say exactly that during the broadcast. Ickx is a 6-time Le Mans winner. Ickx knows endurance racing like no one else. Ickx tells the drivers to forget about heroics. Hit the fuel economy target. Be smooth in the slow corners. Full throttle only on the straights and fast sections. The R26B can run longer stints between pit stops than anyone else. Every minute saved in the pits is a minute gained on track. The driver lineup for car number 55 is Johnny Herbert, Volker Weidler, and Bertrand Gajot. Herbert is British, recovering from a career-threatening crash in 1988, but highly regarded. He has Formula One experience. Weidler is German, a former Formula 3 champion. Gajot is Belgian-French, also racing in Formula One. 3 drivers who can push hard but also exercise restraint. The team is 120 people strong by the time they arrive at Le Mans. Japanese engineers, French support from Arica, British chassis design, translators at every team meeting, meals catered to meet multinational preferences. Ohashi manages the politics, the budgets, the egos. Mazda Speed in 1991 is the culmination of everything Mazda learned since 1970. It is not just the car, it is the entire operation. Race day, June 22nd, 1991, 4 p.m. start time. 38 cars on the grid, the smallest field in almost 60 years. The Peugeots lead from the front. For 1 hour, the French cars look strong. Then both Peugeots develop serious engine problems. The number 5 car catches fire during a pit stop. Flames shoot out, but the crew douses it, and the car rejoins. Minutes later, both Peugeots are done. Blown engines, gone. The Mercedes C11s take over. 3 silver cars running 1, 2, 3. The race now looks like a Mercedes parade. Jean-Louis Schlesser, Jochen Mass, and Alain Ferté in car number 1, Karl Wendlinger, Michael Schumacher, and Fritz Kreutzpointner in car number 31, Jonathan Palmer, Stanley Dickens, and Kurt Thiem in car number 2. Schumacher is 22 years old. This is his only Le Mans start. He is already showing the pace that will make him a 7-time Formula One world champion. At one point, Schumacher knocks 5 seconds off the lap record. The Mercedes are flying. But endurance racing is not about one fast lap. It is about 24 hours of not braking. Flames lick from the exhaust every time the driver lifts off. The crowd can hear the Mazda from across the circuit. It sounds like nothing else. By dawn, car number 55 has moved up to second. Then the Mercedes start to fail. Car number 31, the Wendlinger-Schumacher entry, develops gearbox issues, stuck in 4th gear. 35 minutes in the pits trying to fix it. They get it sorted, rejoin, complete 1 more lap, then retire. Gearbox dead. Car number 2, the Palmer entry, runs over debris on track. The impact damages the engine mounting and cracks the crankshaft damper. The engine dies just before dawn. 2 Mercedes down, 1 left. Car number 1, the Schlesser-Mass-Ferté entry, is still leading. 3 hours to go and they have a comfortable margin. Then disaster. An alternator bracket shears. The bracket breaks the water pump drive belt. No water circulation. Engine temperature spikes. The car limps into the pits. 35 minutes of desperate work. They try to fix it. They cannot. Overheated. Done. All 3 Mercedes retired. Routine pit stops for fuel, tires, brake pads, driver changes. Everything is planned. The rotary engine has not missed a beat. At 4 p.m. on June 23, 1991, Johnny Herbert crosses the finish line in car number 55. 362 laps completed, 4,923 kilometers covered. Average speed 205.3 kilometers per hour. Winning margin 2 laps ahead of the second-place Jaguar. XJR12 driven by Teo Fabi, Derek Warwick, and David Brabham. Car number 18, the second Mazda, 787B, finishes 6th. Car number 56, the older 787, finishes 8th. 3 Mazdas in the top 8. Mazda wins Le Mans. First Japanese manufacturer. First rotary engine. Last year it will ever be legal. Herbert is so dehydrated, he is taken straight to the medical tent. He misses the podium ceremony. The doctors work on him for 30 minutes. Rehydration. He eventually makes it to the podium, barely able to stand. Gajot and Weidler are already celebrating. The renowned livery is everywhere in the photos. Orange and green, loud, unforgettable. Post-race, Mazda engineers. Dismantle the R26B in front of the press. The apex seals, the rubbing surfaces, the bearings. Wear is only 1/3 to 1/2 of the maximum allowable limits. The engine shows so little degradation that Mazda's head engineer says it could run another 24 hours with just an oil change. Total fuel consumption for the race. 2,520 liters allowed, 2,490 used. 30 liters left in the tank. Fuel efficiency, 4.6 miles per gallon over 24 hours of racing. The R26B was not the fastest engine. It was the smartest. But the new engines were not reliable enough in 1990, so the FIA delayed enforcement by 1 year. Mazda won in 1991 under the old rules because the new rules were not ready. Starting in 1992, only cars with 3.5-liter naturally aspirated piston engines would be allowed. No turbos, no rotaries, no 5-liter Group C engines. The rule was not written specifically to ban Mazda. It was written to align sports cars with Formula One and reduce costs for privateer teams, but the timing made it look personal. Mazda wins Le Mans. Next year, rotaries are illegal. Coincidence or not, the door closed immediately behind them. Mazda enters the 1992 Le Mans with the MXR-01, a Jaguar XJR 14 chassis with Mazda badges, and a Judva 10 engine. The car finishes fourth. Respectable, but not a win. Mazda never wins Le Mans again. The 787B competes one more time after Le Mans, the 430-kilometer race at Autopolis in October 1991. Cars number 55 and 18 finish 9th and 10th. Then the 787B is retired. Chassis number 002, the winning car, is put in a museum. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script uses engineering data from SAE technical paper 920309 and cross-references race results from the official ACO Le Mans archives and FIA regulation documents. These are not internet summaries. These are primary sources. Now back to the information. Most rotary engines in Mazda road cars were twin rotor setups. The 13B in the RX-7, the Renesas in the RX-8, the R26B used 4 rotors. Each rotor is a roughly triangular piece of metal that spins inside an oval housing. As the rotor turns, it creates 3 separate combustion chambers. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust, all happening simultaneously in different parts of the housing. A 4-rotor engine has 12 combustion events per revolution. A piston engine with the same displacement might have 4 or 6. More combustion events means smoother power delivery and higher RPM capability. The R26B redlined at 9,000 RPM in race trim. Qualifying trim pushed 10,000. The rotors themselves were precision cast using the lost wax process to reduce mass. Compression ratio 10:1. 3 spark plugs per rotor, 2 leading plugs and 1 far trailing plug positioned to ignite the mixture before squish, improving fuel consumption and flame propagation speed. Ceramic apex seals, the critical wear component in any rotary, designed to last the full 24 hours. Peripheral intake ports for maximum volumetric efficiency. A sliding throttle valve for low restriction at wide open throttle. The intake system was the real innovation. Previous Mazda rotaries used variable length intake runners that operated in steps. Short runners for high RPM, long runners for low RPM. The R26B made this continuously variable. Linear ball bearings connected the sliding air funnels for rotors 1 and 2 and separately for rotors 3 and 4. The ECU controlled the position based on engine speed. Result, optimal intake length across the entire RPM range. More mid-range torque, better fuel economy, smoother power curve. The ignition sequence was 1324 with 90-degree spacing to balance torque variations. The eccentric shaft, the rotary equivalent of a crankshaft, was a 3-piece design. The long main shaft held journals for rotors 2 and 3. Tapered extensions on each end held hollow shafts with journals for rotors 1 and 4. Counterweights front and rear for rotational balance. The whole shaft weighed less than a comparable piston engine crankshaft. Cooling was liquid-based. Oil cooling handled heat from the rotors. Water cooling handled heat from the housings. The engine ran lean for efficiency, with air-fuel ratio, fuel injection timing, and ignition timing optimized by the ECU. Minimum fuel consumption during the race. Better than any competitor. Maximum power output, 515 kilowatts at 9,000 RPM. Peak torque, 608 newton meters at 6,500 RPM. Engine weight, 180 kilograms. Engine length, 99 centimeters. Compare this to the Mercedes M1195-liter twin-turbo V8. 850 horsepower in qualifying, 720 in the race, but heavier, longer, more complex, thirstier. Or the Jaguar 6-liter VAF-12. Powerful but a fuel hog. The Jaguars had to slow down mid-race to manage fuel consumption. The Mazda did not. The suspension used double wishbones front and rear with coil springs and separately mounted telescopic dampers. The 18-inch wheels were larger than the previous year. The carbon ceramic brakes were a first for Mazda. Brake performance through the Porsche curves and at the end of the Mulsanne straight was critical. Carbon ceramic brakes offered consistent performance even after hours of use. The aerodynamics were refined, but not extreme. The 787B did not have the outright downforce of the Mercedes C11. At 320 kilometers per hour, the C11 generated 26.2 kilonewtons of downforce. The Mazda generated less, but also created less drag. Lower top speed on the straights, but better efficiency overall. Mazda Speed made a calculated decision. Circuit de la Sarthe in 1991 was 13.6 kilometers per lap. The Mulsanne straight had chicanes added in 1990 to reduce top speeds after Mercedes set a 400 km per hour record in 1989. The new layout favored cornering agility over raw straight-line speed. The Mazda was lighter, more nimble, easier on tires, easier on brakes, easier on fuel. The drivers could push hard in the corners and still hit the economy targets. Johnny Herbert later described the 787B as beautifully laid out and comfortable. The rotary engine was absolutely fantastic. Silky, smooth. bulletproof reliability. The gearbox was slow. Herbert joked it was the slowest in the world, but it was designed for endurance, not speed. In 1991, if the gearbox broke, you were done. No quick changes like modern racing. The gearbox had to last all 24 hours. Mazda prioritized durability. The drivers could feel it. During practice, Herbert, Weidler, and Gasho competed against each other to see who could set the fastest lap while still hitting the required fuel economy numbers. Ickx encouraged this. It kept them sharp. It kept them disciplined. When the race started, all three knew exactly how hard they could push without exceeding the fuel plan. That discipline saved the race. While other teams burned through fuel and had to slow down or make extra stops, the Mazda maintained pace. Consistent lap times, no drama, no mistakes. The Jaguars were quick in qualifying, but struggled with fuel consumption during the race. Andy Wallace, Martin Brundle, and Alain Ferté drove the number 3 Jaguar to second place, 2 laps behind the Mazda. Teo Fabi, Derek Warwick, and David Brabham finished third in another Jaguar, but the Jaguars were never really in contention. They could not match the Mazda's pace without running out of fuel. Mercedes brought 3 C11 cars. The C11 was the dominant Group C car in 1990. It won the championship. But at Le Mans in 1991, all 3 Mercedes failed. Alternator brackets, water pump failures, gearbox issues, mechanical gremlins. The Mercedes had the speed, but not the luck. Schumacher set the fastest lap of the race at 3 minutes, 35.6 seconds. But fastest lap does not matter if you do not finish. Porsche entered multiple 962 variants, but none were competitive. The 962 was aging. The new Porsches were not ready. Porsche finished nowhere near the podium. The 13B in the RX-7 was reliable on the road, but fragile under racing stress. The 13J in the 767 was better, but still prone to failure. The R26B in the 787 and 787B was the culmination of everything Mazda learned. Ceramic apex seals that could handle sustained high RPM, peripheral ports that maximized airflow, 3-plug ignition that improved combustion efficiency, continuously variable intake runners that optimized torque, liquid cooling that kept temperatures stable, an ECU that managed fuel, ignition, and intake length in real time. Every component was designed to last 24 hours at race pace. Mazda tested the engine for thousands of hours before Le Mans. If they knew it would survive, they just had to avoid driver errors and pit mistakes. Tire changes were smooth, brake pad replacements happened on schedule, driver changes were quick, no fumbles, no delays. The team operated like a machine, 120 people working in perfect coordination. When Weidler brought the car in for a routine stop, the crew had him out in under a minute. When Herbert needed fresh tires, the crew was ready. When Gasho handed off to Weidler, the exchange was seamless. This level of precision does not happen by accident. It happens because Ohashi drilled the team relentlessly. Practice pit stops, practice driver changes, practice every scenario. By race day, the crew could execute in their sleep. Compare this to the chaos in the Peugeot pits when the number 5 car caught fire, or the desperation in the Mercedes pits when they tried and failed to fix the alternator bracket. Mazda had no drama because they prepared for everything. Either way, the 787B went into a museum and stayed there. Chassis number 002, the winning car, was displayed at the Otaru City Museum for 20 years. In 2015, Mazda brought it back to headquarters in Hiroshima. In 2023, for the 100th anniversary of Le Mans, the ACO invited Mazda to bring the 787B back to Circuit de la Sarthe for a demonstration run. Yojiro Terada, a 29-time Le Mans veteran who drove the number 56 787 in 1991, piloted the car. The rotary scream echoed across the circuit again. Fans who remembered 1991 felt the chills. Fans who were not born yet understood why this car is legendary. It represents the rotary engine's only moment of absolute triumph in endurance racing. Every other rotary Le Mans entry before or since fell short. The 787B proved that unconventional engineering could beat conventional power. Mazda did not have the biggest budget. They did not have the most powerful engine. They did not have the fastest car. But they had the most reliable package, the smartest strategy, and the discipline to execute. That combination beat Mercedes, Jaguar, Peugeot, Porsche. It beat everyone. In 2005, BK Motorsports ran a Courage C65 LMP2 car in the American Le Mans series with a Mazda 3-rotor engine. The car was painted in a yellow and blue version of the 787B livery. It was a tribute, not a contender. In 2019, the FIA updated the Le Mans hypercar regulations to allow rotary engines again. The rules specifically mention rotary engines in multiple sections. Variable geometry devices allowed only for rotaries. Rotor seals may be ceramic. Ignition systems exempted from single coil restrictions. Fuel injectors permitted downstream of exhaust ports for rotaries. The door is technically open, but no manufacturer has entered a rotary-powered car since. Mazda developed the MX-30 with a rotary range extender for electric vehicles. The Wankel engine generates electricity, not drive power. It is efficient at constant RPM. It is compact and light. It makes sense for a hybrid, but it is not racing. Mazda has not returned to Le Mans with a factory team since 1995. They ran Kudzu chassis with rotary power in IMSA for a few years. They supported privateer efforts. But the factory Le Mans program ended. The 787B remains the high watermark. Le Mans is expensive. A competitive factory effort costs hundreds of millions. Toyota spent 20 years and billions of yen before finally winning in 2018. Nissan tried and failed spectacularly with the GTR LM Nismo in 2015. Audi dominated for a decade and then left. Porsche came back, won 3 times, and left again. Le Mans is brutal. It chews up budgets and spits out broken teams. Mazda in the early 90s was not Toyota. They did not have unlimited resources. The rotary engine was also a dead end for road cars. Emissions regulations killed it. Fuel economy killed it. The RX-7 was discontinued in North America in 1995. The RX-8 debuted in 2003 with the Renesas engine, but sales were weak. Mazda discontinued the RX-8 in 2012. No rotary production car since. If the road car business case does not exist, the racing case collapses. Racing is marketing. If there is nothing to market, why race? You could hear it from across the circuit. A high-pitched wail that did not sound like a V8, did not sound like a V12, did not sound like anything else. It sounded like the future, or maybe the past. A machine that should not have worked, but did. A machine that should not have won, but did. A machine that was obsolete the moment it crossed the finish line, but is remembered more than most champions. Here is what makes the 787B different from other Le Mans winners. Most winners are part of a program. Porsche won 19 times, Ferrari won 9 times, Audi won 13 times. These are dynasties. The 787B is a one-hit wonder. Mazda won once. They will probably never win again. That makes 1991 more special, not less. It was not the start of dominance, it was a singular moment. A perfect alignment of preparation, opportunity, and execution. One chance, one win. One engine that was already dead but refused to lie down. The R26B did that better than any other engine on the grid. It outlasted turbos. It outlasted big displacement piston engines. It outlasted everything. The engineering was sound. The execution was flawless. The result was history. It is won by the car that finishes. Speed without reliability is useless. The 787B was fast enough and reliable enough. That combination beat cars that were faster but fragile. The Mercedes were faster. They broke. The Peugeots were faster. They broke. The Jaguars were faster but could not manage fuel. The Mazda was steady, consistent, relentless. 24 hours of hitting the same lap times without drama. That is how you win Le Mans. His seat at Jordan for the Belgian Grand Prix was filled by a rookie named Michael Schumacher. Gauchot's assault conviction inadvertently launched Schumacher's Formula One career. Gauchot never recovered his momentum. He raced in smaller series and eventually retired. Le Mans 1991 remains his career highlight. Volker Weidler continued in sports cars. He raced in various series but never reached the same heights. For him, as for Gauchot, Le Mans 1991 was the peak. Herbert at least had Formula One success to follow. For the other two, that orange and green Mazda was the best thing that ever happened to them. 13 years of disappointment. Then finally, in year 13, everything worked. Ohashi did not live to see the rotary's resurgence in modern regulations. He did not live to see the 787B celebrated at the Le Mans centenary. But he saw his team win. That was enough. Nigel Stroud, the chassis designer, went on to other projects. The 787 and 787B were his masterpieces. He balanced aerodynamics, weight, and durability in a package that worked. Without Stroud's chassis, the R26B would not have won. The engine gets the glory, but the chassis carried it. But the 4-rotor R26B never raced again after Autopolis 1991. It was too expensive to maintain for privateers. It was too specialized for anything other than Le Mans-level endurance racing. And Le Mans no longer allowed it. The engine became a museum piece. But unlike most museum pieces, the R26B occasionally roars back to life. Mazda has fired it up for demonstrations. The sound is unmistakable. That scream, that wail, the noise that defined a victory. A single coil and single spark, plug per cylinder. Section 5.14.1. Rotor seals on rotary engines may be manufactured from ceramic material. The regulations explicitly allow rotaries. No one made a big announcement. No press release from the FIA. No statement from Mazda. But the door is open. Theoretically, a manufacturer could enter a rotary-powered hypercar at Le Mans right now. Legally, it is allowed. Practically, it will not happen. The business case does not exist. The technology has moved on. Hybrid systems dominate. Battery development is the priority. The internal combustion engine itself is on borrowed time in many markets. A rotary engine in 2026 is a nostalgia play, not a competitive strategy. But the fact that the rules allow it is significant. It means the FIA acknowledges what Mazda did. It means the 787B is not forgotten. Toyota's budget dwarfed Mazda's. Their resources were nearly unlimited, and it still took them 27 years after Mazda to win. That puts Mazda's achievement in perspective. A small manufacturer from Hiroshima with a fraction of Toyota's money won Le Mans first, with an obsolete engine, from 19th on the grid. That is not luck. That is excellence. In 2021, 30 years after the win, Mazda organized a full restoration of chassis number 002. The car had been sitting in museums for decades. It needed a complete rebuild to run again. Mazda brought in the original engineers. They sourced parts. They rebuilt the R26B. They tested it. On June 9th and 10th, 2023, for the Le Mans Centenary, the 787B ran demonstration laps at Circuit de la Sarthe. Yojiro Terada drove. The rotary scream echoed across the circuit. 32 years after the win, the car still runs. The engine that should have been obsolete in 1992 is still alive in 2023. Mazda proved it. They fired it up, they drove it, and it worked. The R26B did not just survive one race. It survived 30 years in storage and came back to life. That is engineering. That is legacy. The car won once and never raced again, but it never truly stopped. It sits in Hiroshima, waiting. One day, maybe, Mazda will bring it back for another demonstration. Or maybe they will leave it alone. Either way, the 787B is not going anywhere. It is permanent, indelible. The obsolete coupe that refused to die. The rotary that won when it should not have. The underdog that became a legend. June 23rd, 1991. Circuit de la Sarthe, car number 55, 362 laps, 4,923 kilometers. First Japanese win, first rotary win, last rotary win. The door closed behind them, but the sound still echoes. The renowned logos are still crisp. The number 55 is still visible. The R26B sits inside the carbon fiber chassis, waiting. It ran 24 hours in 1991 and lost only 2% of its power. It ran demonstration laps in 2023 and performed flawlessly. It could run again tomorrow if Mazda wanted. That is the final proof. Not just that Mazda won, but that the engine they won with was so well engineered, so meticulously built, that 32 years later, it still works. The rotary did not just beat the competition, it outlasted them. Mercedes stopped making the M119, Jaguar stopped making the V12, Peugeot stopped making the V10, but the R26B still runs, still screams, still proves that Mazda was right. The rotary engine could win Le Mans. It did win Le Mans. And the rulebook had to change to stop it from winning again.